Living alone teaches you independence. Silence becomes normal. Every sound feels familiar. Until one night you hear something that doesn't belong. And you realize being alone doesn't always mean being by yourself. I haven't opened my door after midnight in 4 years. Not for delivery drivers. Not for neighbors. Not even when I hear crying in the hallway. I just don't do it anymore. People think I'm being dramatic, paranoid, but they weren't there. They didn't see what I saw standing outside my door. Let me back up. In 2021, I was living alone in a small town in Ohio. Population maybe 8,000. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where nothing ever happens, where the biggest crime is teenagers spray painting the water tower. I'd moved there for work, night shift manager at a 24-hour gas station off Route 32. The job was mind-numbing but easy. I'd work 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., deal with truckers and insomniacs, then drive home in the pre-dawn darkness. My apartment was in an old building downtown. 3 floors, 8 units, thin walls. I was on the 3rd floor, apartment 3B, at the end of the hallway. Most nights, I'd get home around 5:30 a.m., eat something quick, usually cereal or leftover pizza, brush my teeth, and crash. I'd sleep until 2 or 3 p.m., wake up, kill a few hours, then head back to work. It was a lonely routine, but I didn't mind. After a bad breakup the year before, lonely felt safe. The knocking started on a Tuesday. I'd gotten home at my usual time, 5:30 a.m. The building was quiet. Everyone else worked normal hours, so I had the place to myself in the early mornings. I liked it that way. I was in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, half asleep, when I heard it. 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, like someone was testing if I was home. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth. Who the hell knocks at 5:30 in the morning? I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Just the dim yellow light from the ceiling fixture and the faded red carpet. No one there. I figured maybe it was a neighbor's door. Sound travels weird in old buildings. I went back to the bathroom. Then it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. Same rhythm. Same spot. Definitely my door. I felt my heartbeat pick up. I walked back and looked through the peephole again. Still nothing. Just the empty hallway. That should have been my first warning. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. The hallway was silent. Cold air drifted in from somewhere. Maybe a window was open downstairs. I stepped out and looked both ways. Nothing. No one. I went back inside, locked the door, and told myself it was nothing. Maybe the building was settling. Maybe someone knocked on the wrong door and left. I tried to sleep, but I kept thinking about it. Those 3 knocks. The timing. The deliberate rhythm. The next night, same thing. I got home at 5:30 a.m., made a sandwich, sat down to eat, and at exactly 3:47 a.m., I checked the clock this time, 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move. I just stared at the door. The knocks came again, louder this time. Tap, tap, tap. I walked over slowly and pressed my eye against the peephole. Nothing. I waited, watched, my breath fogging up the glass. Then, from the corner of the frame, I saw movement. Someone stepped into view. A man, tall, thin, wearing a dark jacket with the hood up. He was standing perfectly still, facing my door. Not moving, not knocking, just standing there. I couldn't see his face. The hood covered most of it, but I could see his hands, pale, long fingers, hanging at his sides. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't open the door. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, watching him through the peephole, holding my breath. He didn't move for a full minute, maybe longer. Then slowly he turned his head and looked directly at the peephole, like he knew I was watching. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "There's someone outside my door," I whispered. "He's just standing there." The dispatcher told me to stay inside, stay calm, that officers were on the way. I kept watching through the peephole. He was still there, still staring. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He reached out and touched my doorknob. Not twisting it, not pulling, just touching it. His hand wrapping around the handle, slowly, like he was testing the weight of it. Feeling it. I watched his fingers move. Slow, deliberate. Then he let go and walked away. By the time the cops arrived, maybe 10 minutes later, he was gone. They searched the building, checked the stairwells, the parking lot, the street. Nothing. But here's the thing that still haunts me. When the officer checked my doorknob, he stopped. "Ma'am," he said, "your doorknob is wet." I looked. He was right. The brass handle was slick, like someone had been holding it for a long time, sweating on it, or licking it. The officer told me to get a deadbolt, a chain lock, maybe a camera. He said it was probably just a drunk guy, someone confused, harmless. But I saw his face when he touched that doorknob. He didn't think it was harmless. I installed a deadbolt the next day, and a chain, and a camera, but it didn't stop. Every night for the next 2 weeks, at exactly 3:47 a.m., I'd hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Sometimes I'd check the camera. Most of the time, no one was there. But twice I saw him. Same man, same hood, standing outside my door, staring at the camera. Once he waved. I stopped sleeping. I'd stay awake until sunrise, sitting on my couch with a knife in my lap, watching the door. I called the cops for more times. They never found him. Then one night it just stopped. No knocking, no footsteps, nothing. I thought maybe he'd moved on, found someone else, or got arrested. I wanted to believe it was over. But 2 months later, I was taking out the trash at 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to come up. I walked down to the dumpster behind the building, threw in the bag, and turned around. He was standing at the edge of the parking lot. Same jacket, same hood, just watching me. I ran. I didn't scream. I didn't look back. I just ran inside, up the stairs, into my apartment, and locked every lock. When I looked out the window, he was gone. I moved out 6 months later, across town, different building, different locks. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. But here's what keeps me up at night. Last week, I was getting ready for bed. It was just after midnight. I heard something outside my door. 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I looked at the clock. 3:47 a.m. I didn't look through the peephole. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, frozen, listening. And from the other side, I heard breathing. Slow, steady. He'd found me again. I still don't know who he is, or what he wants, or how he keeps finding me. But I know one thing. He's not going to stop. And one of these nights, I'm going to open that door. I don't know why. Maybe I'll be too tired. Maybe I'll forget. Maybe some part of me will just give in. And when I do, he'll be standing there, waiting, like he always has been. I don't listen to voicemails anymore. I don't even set up voicemail on new phones. I just let the calls ring out, let them disappear into the void. It's easier that way. People think it's rude. They ask why I never check messages. I just tell them I'm bad with my phone. But the truth is, I'm terrified of what I might hear. Let me back up. 2 summers ago, I was living alone in a tiny apartment in Austin, Texas. I'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship, the kind that ends badly with lawyers and accusations and blocked numbers. I needed space, distance, a fresh start. The apartment was a studio in South Austin. $900 a month, which was a miracle for that area. It was small, maybe 500 square feet, but it had a little balcony and decent AC, which in Texas is all that really matters. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, so I spent most of my time inside, glued to my laptop, surviving on iced coffee and breakfast tacos. It was lonely, but I told myself that's what I needed. Time to heal. Time to figure out who I was without someone else. Then the voicemails started. It was a Thursday morning. I woke up around 9 a.m., grabbed my phone off the nightstand, and saw the notification. One new voicemail. From my own number. I stared at it for a minute, confused. I figured it was some kind of glitch. Spammers spoofing numbers, robocalls, whatever. I almost deleted it. But something made me listen. I hit play. Static. then breathing, then a voice. My voice, whispering, "Don't go to sleep tonight." I felt my skin go cold. My hands started shaking. Played it again. Same thing. My voice, whispering, "Don't go to sleep tonight." It didn't make sense. I hadn't called myself. I hadn't recorded anything. My voice sounded off, strained, like I was scared. I told myself it was fake. AI voice cloning, deepfake audio, someone messing with me. But how did they get my voice? And why? I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about the message, the way it sounded, the breathing before the words. Felt real. Around 2 a.m., my phone rang. I looked at the screen. My own number. I didn't answer. It rang 4 more times, then stopped. The next morning, there was another voicemail. My voice again. This time it said, "I'm watching you sleep." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. I checked every lock, every window. I looked in the closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. I called my ex, thinking maybe he was behind it. Some sick game. But he didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch with every light on, staring at my phone, waiting for it to ring. It did. At 2:13 a.m., my number. Again. This time I answered. "Hello." Silence. Then breathing. Slow and steady. "Who is this?" I said, my voice shaking. More silence. Then a whisper. My voice. "Why did you answer?" I hung up. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I should have called the cops. I should have left. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the screen. Then I had an idea. I set up my phone to record video while I slept. I propped it up on my dresser, aimed it at my bed, hit record, and forced myself to lie down. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to every sound. The AC humming, a car passing outside, my own heartbeat. When the sun came up, I grabbed my phone and checked the footage. Most of it was just me lying there, tossing and turning. But then, at 2:13 a.m., something happened. My phone, sitting on my nightstand, lit up. Incoming call. From my own number. And in the reflection of the screen, clear as day, I saw something. A shadow. Standing in my bedroom doorway. Tall. Still. Watching me. I screamed and dropped the phone. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and ran. I didn't pack. I didn't think. I just got in my car and drove to a friend's place across town. I stayed there for 3 days before I worked up the courage to go back. When I did, the apartment looked normal, untouched, but something felt wrong. I checked my phone. 5 new voicemails, all from my number. I didn't listen to them. I deleted them, blocked my own number, changed my locks, but it didn't stop. A week later, I got a call. Different number this time. I answered. "Hello." Silence. Then my voice. "You can't block me." I changed my number, moved apartments, stayed with friends for a month. It didn't matter. The calls kept coming. Different numbers. Same voice. My voice. Sometimes it was just breathing. Sometimes it was warnings. "I know where you are. I'm closer than you think. Turn around." I saw a therapist. She said it was stress. Trauma from the breakup. PTSD. She prescribed medication. But medication doesn't stop phone calls. I reported it to the police. They said there was nothing they could do. No threats. No proof of who was calling. I hired a private investigator. He traced the calls. They came from burner phones. Bought with cash. No way to track. Whoever was doing this knew what they were doing. 6 months ago, the calls stopped. Just like that. No warning. No final message. I thought it was over. But last week, I was at a coffee shop, working on my laptop. My phone buzzed. A text. From my own number. "I'm sitting behind you." I turned around. No one there. Just empty tables. I grabbed my stuff and left. When I got home, there was a voicemail. My voice. "You shouldn't have looked. I don't know who's doing this, or how, or why. But I know one thing. They're not going to stop. And one day I'm going to turn around. And they'll be there, waiting." I should have known something was wrong when the rent was that cheap. $700 a month for a one-bedroom in Baltimore. Fully furnished. Hardwood floors. Big windows. The landlord didn't even run a credit check. I thought I'd gotten lucky. I was wrong. Let me back up. In 2020, I was desperate. I just lost my job, COVID layoffs, and my roommate had bailed on our lease. I had maybe 2 weeks to find a new place before I'd be sleeping in my car. I was scrolling through Craigslist at 2 a.m., drinking cheap wine, when I found the listing. One-bedroom apartment. Fully furnished. Available immediately. $700 per month. The photos looked normal. A little dated, maybe. Floral curtains. An old couch. A wooden bed frame. But it was clean. And fully furnished meant I wouldn't have to buy anything. I called the landlord the next morning. His name was David. Mid-50s. Soft voice. He said the previous tenant had left in a hurry and abandoned most of their stuff. He just wanted someone reliable who could move in fast. I met him that afternoon. The building was in a quiet neighborhood near Patterson Park. 3 stories. Brick exterior. My unit was on the 2nd floor, apartment 2C. David unlocked the door and let me inside. The apartment was exactly like the photos. Small living room with a brown couch and a coffee table. Kitchenette along one wall. Bedroom in the back with a full-size bed, a dresser, and a nightstand. Bathroom with a shower tub combo and old tile. It smelled like air freshener. The fake floral kind that doesn't quite cover up something else. Everything works, David said. Heat, water, electric. You can keep the furniture or get rid of it. Whatever you want. I signed the lease that day. Moved in 2 days later. The first night, I noticed the furniture was weird. Not broken or damaged. Just personal. There were photos on the dresser. Framed pictures of people I didn't know. A woman in her 30s. A man with glasses. A dog. I figured the previous tenant had just forgotten them. In the closet, there was a jacket. Men's. Large. Dark green. Still on a hanger. In the bathroom, there were toiletries. A toothbrush. Half-empty shampoo bottles. A razor. It felt like someone had just walked out mid-routine and never come back. I texted David and asked if he wanted me to box up the stuff. He said no. Just throw it away. So I did. Most of it, anyway. But I kept finding things. A coffee mug in the cabinet with lipstick on the rim. A pair of sneakers under the bed. A stack of mail on the kitchen counter. Addressed to someone named Lauren Hastings. That should have been my first warning. The second night, I couldn't sleep. It was too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every little sound feel loud. The refrigerator humming. The radiator clicking. The building settling. Around midnight, I got up to get water. That's when I saw the nightstand. I hadn't opened the drawer yet. I don't know why. It just felt invasive. But that night, I opened it. Inside was a journal. Spiral-bound. Blue cover. The pages were filled with handwriting. Small, cramped, frantic. I flipped to the first page. March 3rd, 2020. Moved in today. The apartment is perfect. Finally have my own space. I flipped forward. Normal entries. Grocery lists. Work complaints. Notes about a guy she was seeing. Then the tone shifted. March 18th. I keep hearing footsteps in the hallway. Late at night. They stop outside my door. March 22nd. I think someone's been in my apartment. Things are moved. My coffee mug was in a different spot. The bathroom door was open. I know I closed it. March 29th. I found a key on my kitchen counter. It's not mine. I tested it. It opens my front door. My hands started shaking. April 2nd. He's in the apartment. I don't know how he gets in. I hear him at night. Moving around. Breathing. I can't see him, but I know he's here. April 5th. I'm leaving. I can't stay here anymore. If you're reading this, get out. That was the last entry. Dated 3 days before I moved in. I felt my stomach turn. I stood up and checked the front door. It was locked. Deadbolt and chain. I checked the windows. Locked. I went back to the journal and flipped through the rest of the pages. Most were blank. But near the back, I found something else. A drawing, scratched in pen. A rough sketch of the apartment layout. The living room, the bedroom, the bathroom, and in the bedroom, standing next to the bed, she'd drawn a figure. Tall, thin, faceless. Underneath, she'd written, "He watches me sleep." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with every light on, staring at the front door. Around 3 a.m., I heard something. Footsteps. In the hallway. Slow. Heavy. Getting closer. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath. Then I heard it. The sound of a key sliding into the lock. I watched the doorknob. Turned. Slowly. But the deadbolt held. The knob turned back. Then I heard footsteps again. Walking away. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "Someone just tried to get into my apartment," I whispered. The dispatcher kept me on the line until the cops arrived. 2 officers. They searched the hallway, the stairwell, the whole building. No one there. But when they checked my door, they found scratches around the lock. Fresh ones. Like someone had been trying different keys. I showed them the journal. Told them about the previous tenant. They took a report. Told me to call the landlord. Get the locks changed. I called David the next morning. "I need the locks changed," I said. "Someone has a key." He went quiet. "There's no spare key," he said. "I only made 2. One for me. One for you." "Then who tried to get in last night?" He didn't answer. I pushed him. Asked about Lauren Hastings. Why she left. What happened. He hung up. I called him back. No answer. I started Googling her name. Lauren Hastings. Baltimore. I found an article. From April 2020. Woman reported missing after failing to show up for work. Last seen at her apartment in Patterson Park. There was a photo. It was her. The woman from the pictures on the dresser. She'd never left. She'd disappeared. I felt my chest tighten. I packed my stuff that day. Didn't tell David. Didn't wait for the lease to end. I just grabbed my suitcase, my laptop, and left. I stayed with a friend for 2 weeks. Then found a new place. Different neighborhood. Different landlord. I thought it was over. But a month later I got a call. Unknown number. I answered. Heavy breathing. Then a voice. A woman's voice. Shaking. Scared. "He's still there." "Who is this?" I said. "You have to tell someone," she whispered. "He's still in the apartment. He never left." The line went dead. I reported it to the police. Told them about the call. About Lauren. About the apartment. They said they'd look into it. 2 weeks later, I got a follow-up call from a detective. They'd searched the apartment. Found a false wall in the bedroom closet. Behind it was a crawl space. Inside they found clothes, food wrappers, a sleeping bag, and photos. Dozens of them. Pictures of Lauren. Sleeping, showering, eating. Pictures of me, unpacking, sitting on the couch, asleep in bed. Someone had been living in that crawl space. Watching. For months. They never found who it was. No prints. No DNA. Just photos. And one other thing. A key. Freshly cut. To my new apartment. I moved again. And again. I change my locks every 3 months. I cover every vent. Every crack. Every gap in the walls. But sometimes late at night I still hear it. Footsteps. In the hallway. Stopping outside my door. And the sound of a key. Sliding into the lock. Testing. Waiting. I don't know who he is. But I know he's still looking for me. And one night, the deadbolt won't hold. And he'll be inside. Watching me sleep. Just like he always has. I still cover every air vent in my apartment. Doesn't matter if it's summer. Doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees. I tape cardboard over them. All of them. People think I'm paranoid. But they didn't see what I saw. Let me back up. 2 years ago, I was living alone in a basement unit in Denver. I just started working as a nurse at a hospital downtown. Long shifts. 12 hours. Sometimes 16. I needed a place that was cheap and close to work. I found the apartment on Facebook Marketplace. $650 a month. Utilities included. Basement unit in a 3-story building near Capitol Hill. It wasn't much. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, bathroom with a shower that barely worked. But it was mine. And after living with roommates for 5 years, I was desperate for privacy. The landlord's name was Greg, mid-40s, friendly, a little too friendly. He showed me the unit and kept talking about how safe the building was, how he lived upstairs, how he kept an eye on things. I signed the lease, moved in on a Saturday. The first month was fine. The apartment was quiet, cool even in the summer. I liked being underground, felt private, tucked away. But then I started feeling it, like I was being watched. It's hard to explain. It wasn't anything obvious, just a crawling feeling on my skin, like someone's eyes on the back of your neck. I'd be cooking dinner and feel it, showering and feel it, changing clothes and feel it. I told myself it was stress. New job, new place, long shifts. I wasn't sleeping enough, but the feeling didn't go away. One night, maybe 6 weeks after I moved in, I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard it, a scratching sound, faint, like nails on wood. I muted my phone and listened. There it was again, coming from above me. I looked up, the air vent, right above my bed. Old metal grate, painted white. I'd never really looked at it before. The scratching stopped. I went back to my phone. Then I heard something else. Breathing. Slow. Steady. I sat up. It was coming from the vent. I stood on my bed and looked up at the grate. It was dark inside. I couldn't see anything. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. That's when I saw it. A light. A small, dim light. Coming from deep inside the vent. My heart started pounding. I climbed down and grabbed a chair. Stood on it. Got closer to the vent. I shined my flashlight inside. And then I saw it. An eye, staring back at me. I screamed. The light disappeared. I jumped off the chair and ran to the front door. Grabbed my keys. My phone. I didn't even put on shoes. I ran upstairs and pounded on Greg's door. Someone's in the vents. I shouted. Someone's watching me. He opened the door. Looked confused. Concerned. What are you talking about? There's someone in the air vents. I saw them. He followed me downstairs. I showed him the vent. He climbed up and looked inside. There's nothing here, he said. I saw someone. There was a light. An eye. He looked at me like I was crazy. It's just ductwork, he said. Maybe you saw a reflection. But I knew what I saw. He left. Told me to get some sleep. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with a knife in my lap, staring at the vent. The next morning I called the cops. 2 officers came. I told them everything. They checked the vents, the crawl space, the whole building. One of them found something. In the unit next to mine, apartment 1B, there was a false wall in the back of the closet. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, maybe 2 feet wide. It ran along the side of my unit, and it connected to my air vents. Inside the crawl space, they found a folding chair, a flashlight, a blanket, and a camera, a small battery-powered camera, pointed through a hole drilled into the ductwork, aimed directly at my bed. I felt like I was going to throw up. They checked the camera. It had an SD card inside. Hundreds of videos. Me sleeping, showering, changing clothes, everything. The neighbor in 1B was a man in his 50s. Quiet. Worked from home. I'd seen him a few times in the hallway. He'd always smiled. Said hello. They arrested him that day. He didn't resist. Didn't say anything. Just stared at me as they walked him out. I moved out the next day. But here's the thing that still haunts me. When they checked the other apartments, they found more crawl spaces. More cameras. He'd been watching other tenants too. For years. I still don't know how long he was watching me before I noticed. Weeks? Months? How many nights did I fall asleep while he stared down at me from the vent? I moved across town. Ground floor. No basement. No vents above my bed. But sometimes late at night I still hear it. Scratching. Breathing. And I check the vents. Every single time. I don't keep my closet door closed anymore. Not after what I found. Not after what I saw. People think it's weird. They ask why I always leave it open, why I stuff it with so much junk that nothing could fit inside. I just tell them I like it that way. But the truth is, I'm terrified of what might be hiding in there if I close it. Let me back up. 3 years ago, I was living in a studio apartment in Seattle. Capitol Hill. Tiny place. Maybe 400 square feet. Just enough room for a bed, a desk, and a closet. I was bartending at a dive bar on Pike Street. Late nights. I'd work until 2 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m., then walk home through the empty streets. Seattle at night is cold, wet, the kind of damp that seeps into your bones. I get home exhausted, too tired to do anything but kick off my shoes, peel off my jeans, and pass out. The apartment was cheap, $800 a month. The landlord didn't ask questions, didn't do background checks, just wanted first month's rent and a signature. The closet was small, maybe 3 feet wide. Sliding door. I kept my clothes in there. Shoes on the floor. A few boxes on the top shelf. Normal stuff. The first few weeks were fine. I come home, shower, sleep, wake up, go to work, repeat. Then I started noticing things. Small things. My closet door would be open, just a crack. I always kept it closed. I didn't like looking at the clutter. But some mornings I'd wake up and it would be open. I figured I was just forgetting to close it. I worked late. I was tired. My brain was foggy. Then my shoes started moving. I'd leave them by the door when I came home, but in the morning they'd be inside the closet, lined up neatly against the wall. I thought maybe I was sleepwalking, organizing things in my sleep. It sounded crazy, but what else could it be? That should have been my first warning. One night, maybe 3 weeks after I moved in, I came home around 2:30 a.m. I was exhausted. My feet hurt. Some drunk guy had thrown up on the bar and I'd spent an hour cleaning it. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and froze. My closet door was wide open. I always closed it before I left. Always. I walked over slowly and looked inside. Everything looked normal. Clothes hanging, shoes on the floor, boxes on the shelf. But something felt wrong. The air smelled different, stale, like someone had been breathing in a small space for too long. I closed the door and went to bed. I didn't sleep well. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to a sound, a sliding sound, like something heavy being dragged across wood. I opened my eyes and looked toward the closet. The door was open, just a few inches. I stared at it, my heart pounding. Then I saw movement, a shadow, shifting behind the hanging clothes. I sat up. Hello? No answer. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, shined it toward the closet. Nothing, just clothes, swaying slightly, like someone had just brushed past them. I got out of bed and walked over. My hands were shaking. I pulled the door open all the way. Empty. I checked behind the clothes, looked up at the shelf, crouched down and checked the floor. Nothing. I went back to bed, told myself I was imagining things. Stress, exhaustion, too many late nights. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Someone had been in there. The next night, I decided to test it. Before I left for work, I closed the closet door. Then I took a piece of tape and stuck it across the crack between the door and the frame. If someone opened it, the tape would break. When I got home at 3 a.m., I checked. The tape was broken. The door was open. I felt my stomach drop. I called my best friend, told her everything. She said I should call the cops, or at least tell my landlord. But what was I supposed to say? My closet door keeps opening? Instead, I did something stupid. I set up my phone to record. I propped it up on my desk, aimed it at the closet, and hit record before I left for work. When I got home that night, I grabbed my phone and checked the footage. For the first 2 hours, nothing happened. Just my empty apartment. The closet door closed. Then, at 11:34 p.m., it moved. The door slid open, slowly, and someone stepped out. A man, thin, pale, wearing dirty clothes. His hair was long and greasy. His face was gaunt. He stood there for a moment, looking around. Then he walked to my kitchen, opened the fridge, took out a container of leftovers, ate it with his hands. He walked around my apartment, slowly, like he was exploring, like he owned the place. He sat on my bed, ran his hands over my blanket, picked up my pillow, smelled it. I felt like I was going to be sick. Then, around 1 a.m., he walked back to the closet, opened the door, and stepped inside. The door slid closed. I watched the rest of the footage. He didn't come out again. I sat there, staring at my phone, my whole body shaking. Someone had been living in my closet. For weeks, maybe longer. I called the cops. They came within 20 minutes. 3 officers. I showed them the video. One of them opened the closet, pulled out the clothes, checked the back wall. That's when they found it. Panel. Loose. Hidden behind my winter coats. He pulled it away. Behind it was a crawl space, maybe 4 feet deep, just big enough for someone to crouch inside. There was a sleeping bag, a flashlight, granola bar wrappers, an empty water bottle, and a notebook. One of the officers flipped through it. It was full of notes. About me. She leaves for work at 8 p.m. She comes home around 2 a.m. She sleeps heavy, doesn't wake up easy. She smells like vanilla. There were drawings too, sketches of my apartment, of me, sleeping. The officer's face went pale. Is he still in there? I whispered. They checked the crawl space, searched the whole building. He was gone, but they found something else. A second entrance. A small panel in the hallway closet. He'd been coming and going through there. They dusted for prints, took the notebook, told me to stay somewhere else for a few days. I never went back. I grabbed my stuff and moved out that night. Stayed with my friend for 2 weeks. Then found a new place. Different neighborhood. No closets with back panels. The cops never found him. No prints. No DNA. Just a name in the notebook. Ethan. That's it. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. 2 months after I moved, I got a message on Instagram from an account with no profile picture, no posts, just a username, @Ethan_watches. The message said, "I miss your apartment." I blocked it immediately, reported it, deleted my account. But a week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name and my new address. Inside was a single photo of me, sleeping in my new bed, taken from my closet. I moved again and again. I change my locks. I check every panel, every wall, every vent. I never close my closet door, because if I do, I won't see him coming. And I know he's still out there, watching, waiting for me to fall asleep, so he can come back. I stopped answering my door after this. I don't care if it's Amazon. I don't care if it's the mailman. If I'm not expecting something, I don't open it. People think I'm being paranoid, but they didn't see the photos. Let me back up. Last year, I was living alone in a quiet neighborhood in Phoenix. Small house, 2 bedrooms. I rented it after my divorce. Needed a fresh start, somewhere I could feel safe. The neighborhood was nice. Families, retirees. The kind of place where people wave at each other and everyone knows the mail carrier's name. I worked from home, freelance copywriter, so I was home most of the time. Just me, my laptop, and too much coffee. One evening, a Tuesday, I think, I was working at my kitchen table when I heard a knock. I wasn't expecting anything. I looked through the peephole. No one there. I opened the door. On the porch was a package. Plain brown box. About the size of a shoebox. No label. No shipping sticker. No address. I looked up and down the street. No delivery truck. No one walking away. I brought the box inside. That was my first mistake. I set it on the counter and stared at it. No markings. No tape. Just a lid. I should have thrown it away. I should have called the cops. But I was curious. I opened it. Inside was a photo. A photo of me, asleep in my bed. I felt my heart stop. The photo was taken from the doorway of my bedroom. I could see myself, lying on my side, facing away from the camera. The timestamp in the corner said 2:47 a.m. The night before, I dropped the photo. My hands were shaking. Someone had been in my house. While I was sleeping, I checked every lock, every window. Everything was secure. No signs of forced entry. No scratches on the locks. Nothing. I told myself it was fake. Photoshopped. Some sick prank. But it looked real. I called the cops. Showed them the photo. They took a report. Dusted for prints. Found nothing. They said it was probably an someone trying to scare me. They told me to change my locks. Get a security system. Be careful. I did. All of it. I installed cameras. Changed the locks. Got a deadbolt. I barely slept that week. 2 days later, another knock. I looked through the peephole. No one there. I opened the door. Another box. Same size. Same brown cardboard. No label. I grabbed it and brought it inside. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I opened it. Another photo. This time it was taken from closer. From the foot of my bed. I could see my face. My eyes closed. The blanket pulled up to my chin. The timestamp said 3:12 a.m. The night before. After I'd changed the locks. After I'd installed the cameras. I grabbed my phone and checked the footage from last night. Nothing. No one came in. No doors opened. No windows. Nothing. But someone had been in my house. I called the cops again. Same officers. They checked the cameras. The locks. The windows. There's no sign of entry, one of them said. Are you sure these photos are real? Look at them, I shouted. That's my bed. That's my room. They took the photos. Said they'd investigate. But I could see it in their eyes. They thought I was making it up. I didn't care. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend. A week later, she called me. There's a package at my door, she said. Addressed to you. My stomach dropped. Don't open it, I said. Just throw it away. Too late, she said. I already opened it. Silence. What's inside? I asked. A note, she said. Her voice was shaking. It says, I can get in whenever I want. I felt my chest tighten. I stayed with her for a month, then found a new place. Different neighborhood, different locks. I didn't tell anyone where I was moving. Not my ex, not my family, no one. For a few weeks, everything was fine. Then the boxes started again. One on my doorstep, then another, then another. Photos, all of me, sleeping, showering, eating, sitting on my couch. Someone was watching me, and I couldn't stop them. I moved again, and again. For times in 6 months. It didn't matter. The boxes kept coming. Always the same. Brown cardboard. No label. Just photos. And notes. You can't hide. I know where you are. I'm always watching. I stopped sleeping. I'd stay awake all night with the lights on, staring at the door. I installed more cameras. More locks. I even got a dog. Nothing worked. Last month, I got another box. I didn't want to open it, but I had to know. Inside was a photo of me opening the last box, taken from across the street, and underneath a note. Soon. I don't know what that means. I don't know who's doing this, but I know they're getting closer. And one night, they're not going to leave a photo. They're going to stay. I still check my doorstep every morning, just in case. I can't take showers without checking behind the curtain now. Every single time. Before I turn on the water. While I'm washing my hair. When I'm rinsing off. I check. And check again. People think I'm being ridiculous. But they weren't there. They didn't see the footprints. Let me back up. 2 years ago, I was living alone in a small apartment in Chicago. Wicker Park. Second floor of an old building. The kind with radiator heat and windows that rattle when the wind blows. I just started a new job. Marketing coordinator for a startup downtown. The hours were long, but the pay was decent. Enough to afford my own place for the first time in years. The apartment was simple. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, bathroom with a shower tub combo and one of those cheap plastic curtains. White, translucent. The kind that gets moldy if you don't replace it every few months. I worked late most nights. I'd get home around 10 or 11 p.m., make something to eat, zone out in front of Netflix, then shower and go to bed. That was my routine. Every night. For weeks. Then one night, everything changed. It was a Thursday. I remember because I'd had a terrible day at work. My boss had yelled at me in a meeting. I'd spilled coffee on my laptop. I just wanted to go home, shower, and forget the day ever happened. I got home around 11 p.m., kicked off my shoes, peeled off my work clothes, went straight to the bathroom. I turned on the shower, let the water heat up. Steam started filling the small room. I pulled back the curtain and stepped in. The water felt good. Hot. I closed my eyes and let it run over my face. That's when I noticed it. The curtain was moving. Not from the water. Not from the steam. Like someone was touching it. From the other side. I froze. I stood there, water running down my back, staring at the curtain. It moved again. Just slightly. A ripple. Like fabric shifting in a breeze. But there was no breeze. The bathroom door was closed. The window was shut. I told myself it was the air vent, the heating system kicking on. I kept showering. Then I heard it. A sound. Soft. Almost imperceptible. Like fabric brushing against fabric. I turned off the water. Stood there. Dripping. Listening. Silence. Then I heard it again. The curtain moving. Slowly. Like someone was running their hand along it. My heart started pounding. "Hello," I said. My voice sounded small. Scared. No answer. I grabbed the edge of the curtain and ripped it open. No one there. Just my tiny bathroom. The toilet. The sink. The mirror fogged with steam. But the bathroom door, the one I'd closed when I got in the shower, was now open. Just a crack. I felt my skin go cold. I grabbed my towel and wrapped it around myself. Stepped out of the tub. Water dripping onto the floor. I looked into the hallway. Empty. I checked the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, every closet. Nothing. No one. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. I'd had a bad day. I was tired, stressed. Maybe I hadn't closed the door all the way. Maybe the steam had pushed it open. I locked the front door, double-checked the windows, went to bed. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that curtain, the way it moved, the sound. Around 3 a.m., I finally drifted off. When I woke up the next morning, I had to pee. I walked to the bathroom, still half asleep, pushed open the door, and that's when I saw them. Footprints. Wet footprints. On the bathroom floor, leading from the shower to my bedroom. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I followed them with my eyes. They crossed the bathroom floor, out into the hallway, stopped at the foot of my bed, right where I'd been sleeping. I screamed. I grabbed my phone and called 911. "Someone was in my apartment," I said. My voice was shaking. "Someone was in my bathroom. There are footprints." The dispatcher kept me on the line until the cops arrived. 2 officers, both men. They looked tired, annoyed, like they'd dealt with a dozen hysterical women that week. I showed them the footprints. By then, they'd dried, but you could still see the faint outlines. Barefoot, large, definitely not mine. They searched the apartment, checked the locks, the windows. One of them found something. The bathroom window, the one above the toilet. The lock was broken. "When did this happen?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "I didn't even know it was broken." "Someone could have climbed in through here," he said. "Closed the curtain. Waited for you." I felt like I was going to be sick. "Waited for me?" He nodded. "You were in the shower. They were behind the curtain. When you opened it, they probably ducked down. Then left when you weren't looking. I thought I was going to pass out." "So someone was in there with me?" He didn't answer. "They took photos, took a report, told me to get the window fixed, install better locks, maybe get a camera, but they never found who it was." I stayed with a friend that night, and the next, and the next. I didn't go back to that apartment for 2 weeks. When I finally did, I moved all my stuff out in one day. Broke the lease. Didn't care about losing my deposit. I found a new place. Ground floor. No windows in the bathroom. just a small vent, and I got rid of the shower curtain. Now I only use clear curtains, the kind you can see through, because I need to know if someone's behind it. But here's the thing that still haunts me. A few months after I moved, I was scrolling through Facebook, just mindlessly clicking through posts. Then I saw it. A news article, shared by someone in a Chicago neighborhood group. Man arrested for breaking into apartments, hiding in bathrooms. There was a mugshot, a man in his 40s, thin, gaunt face, dark eyes. I clicked on the article. He'd been breaking into women's apartments for months, climbing through bathroom windows, hiding behind shower curtains, waiting. Most of the time, he'd just watch, then leave. But twice he'd attacked. One woman fought him off. The other barely escaped. The police had arrested him after a neighbor saw him climbing through a window. I stared at that mugshot for a long time. I didn't recognize him. I'd never seen him before, but he'd been in my apartment, behind my shower curtain, watching me, maybe touching me. I don't know, and I'll never know. How long was he there? How many times did he come back? Did he stand over my bed while I slept? I reported it to the police, told them I thought he'd been in my old apartment. They said they'd look into it, but I never heard back. I still live in Chicago. Different neighborhood now. Better locks, better windows. But every time I take a shower, I check behind the curtain. Before I get in, while I'm washing my hair, when I'm rinsing off, I check, because I need to know if someone's there. Waiting, watching, breathing, and sometimes late at night I still hear it. The sound of fabric shifting, the curtain moving, even though I'm alone, even though the door is locked. I hear it, and I check, every single time. I don't keep electronics plugged in when I sleep anymore. No phone chargers by the bed. No speakers. No smart devices. Nothing that can transmit sound. People think it's extreme. They say I'm paranoid. But they didn't hear what I heard. Let me back up. Last year, I was living alone after a breakup. It was messy, the kind that ends with lawyers and restraining orders. I needed to start over. New city, new apartment, new life. I found a place in Florida, Tampa. Small one-bedroom in a quiet complex. The landlord said the previous tenant had moved out suddenly, left some stuff behind, said I could keep it or toss it. Most of it was junk. Old dishes, a broken lamp, folding chair. But there was one thing that caught my eye. A baby monitor. It was sitting on the kitchen counter when I moved in. White plastic, small screen, camera and receiver. The kind young parents used to watch their kids sleep. I almost threw it out. I didn't have kids. Didn't plan on having kids. But something made me keep it. I set it on my nightstand. Plugged it in. Didn't turn it on. Just left it there. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would make me feel safer. Like someone was watching over me. That was my first mistake. The first few weeks were fine. I was settling in. New job at a hospital. Working 12-hour shifts as a pharmacy tech. I come home exhausted, eat something quick, and pass out. Then one night I woke up to static. It was around 3 a.m. I opened my eyes. The room was dark except for the glow of the baby monitor. It was on. I hadn't turned it on. I sat up and stared at it. The screen showed my empty living room. The camera angle looking at the couch. Static crackled from the speaker. Then I heard it. A voice, whispering, "Are you awake?" I felt my entire body go cold. I grabbed the monitor and stared at the screen. No one there. Just my empty living room. "Hello," I said. Silence. Then the voice again. Clearer this time. "I can see you." My hands started shaking. I looked around my bedroom. The door was closed. The window was locked. I was alone. "Who is this?" I said. Static. Then, "Look at the camera." I walked to the living room, turned on the light. The camera was sitting on the bookshelf, where I'd left it, pointed at the couch. But it was on. The little red light glowing. I hadn't turned it on. I unplugged it, ripped the cord out of the wall, threw the whole thing in the trash. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I went back to bed. Didn't sleep. The next night I heard it again. The same voice, whispering, "Why did you throw me away?" But the monitor was in the trash. Unplugged. Dead. I grabbed my phone. Checked for open apps. Bluetooth devices. Nothing. The voice kept going. "I'm still here." It was coming from my phone. I turned it off. Completely off. The voice stopped. I sat there in the dark, shaking, trying to understand what was happening. The next morning I got a text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have turned me off." I blocked it. Immediately. An hour later, another text. Different number. "I can always find you." I blocked that one too. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again, and again. 15 calls in 10 minutes. I turned off my phone, pulled out the SIM card, threw it in a drawer. That night I heard it again. The voice. But this time it wasn't coming from my phone. It was coming from my laptop, sitting on my desk, closed, powered off. "I told you," the voice whispered. "I can always find you." I grabbed the laptop and threw it across the room. It hit the wall, cracked, went silent. I called the cops. They came, took a report, checked my apartment, found nothing. "Sounds like someone's hacking your devices," one officer said. "Change your passwords. Maybe get a VPN." But it wasn't just hacking. It was something else. I moved 2 weeks later. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Got a new phone, new number, new email. For a month, everything was quiet. Then I made a mistake. I bought a smart speaker, one of those voice-activated ones. For music, I set it up in my living room, plugged it in. That night I woke up to a sound. Music, playing softly. I walked to the living room. The speaker was on. Glowing blue, playing a song I didn't recognize. Then the music stopped, and the voice came through. "I missed you," I screamed, unplugged it, threw it in the dumpster outside. But it didn't stop. A week later, my TV turned on in the middle of the night. Static. Then the voice. "You can't get rid of me. I don't know who it is. I don't know how they're doing this. But they're in everything. Every device. Every screen. Every speaker." I stopped using electronics. I got rid of my TV, my laptop, my smart speaker. I use my phone only for emergencies. I keep it off most of the time. But sometimes late at night I still hear it. A faint whisper, coming from somewhere I can't find. "I'm still here. I'm always watching. You can't hide." I've moved 3 times in the last year. It doesn't matter. They find me, every time. I don't know what they want, but I know they're not going to stop. And one night, they're not going to just watch. They're going to come through, and I won't be able to unplug them. I still get letters from that apartment, even though I moved out 3 years ago, even though I've changed addresses 4 times since then. The letters keep coming. Rent notices, late fees, legal threats, all addressed to me, all from that apartment. The apartment I haven't lived in since 2022. People tell me to just ignore them, throw them away. They're probably just clerical errors, but they don't understand. According to the lease, I never left. Let me back up. In 2022, I was desperate for a place to live. I just lost my job, layoffs, and my roommate had bailed on our lease with 2 weeks' notice. I was scrambling, checking Craigslist every hour, calling every number I could find. That's when I found the listing. Studio apartment in Brooklyn. $850 per month. Available immediately. The photos looked decent. Small but clean. Hardwood floors. Big windows. The building was in Bed-Stuy, near the train. Perfect. I called the landlord. His name was Richard. He sounded older, maybe 60s. Calm voice. Professional. "When can you move in?" he asked. "As soon as possible," I said. "How about tomorrow?" I should have known something was wrong. No background check. No references. No credit check. Just first month's rent and a signature. But I was desperate. I met him the next day. The building was old. Red brick. For stories. My unit was on the 3rd floor. Apartment 3D. Richard was exactly how I imagined. Gray hair, glasses, wore a suit even though it was Saturday. He smiled when he shook my hand. His grip was too tight. "I just need you to sign here," he said, handing me the lease. I skimmed it. Standard stuff. 1-year lease. $850 a month. Security deposit. Utilities not included. I signed. He handed me the keys. "Welcome home," he said. That should have been my first warning. The apartment was fine. Small. Dark. But it was mine. I moved in that day. Slept on an air mattress until I could afford a real bed. The first few months were normal. I paid rent on time. Kept to myself. Worked temp jobs while I looked for something permanent. Then my year was up. I found a better job. Saved some money. I wanted to move somewhere nicer. Closer to work. I called Richard. "I'm not renewing the lease," I said. "I'll be out by the end of the month." Silence. "You can't leave," he said. I laughed. Thought he was joking. "What do you mean?" "You signed a perpetual lease," he said. "You can't leave until I grant you release." My stomach dropped. "That's insane. I signed a 1-year lease." "Check your copy," he said, then hung up. I dug out my lease. Read through it again. This time slower. And there it was, buried in the fine print. Section 12. Subsection C. Tenant agrees to indefinite occupancy of the premises until such time as the property owner grants formal release in writing. I felt my chest tighten. I called him back. "This isn't legal," I said. "You can't force someone to stay in an apartment." "You signed the lease," he said. "It's binding." "I'm leaving," I said. "You can't stop me." I hung up. I packed my stuff. Found a new apartment in Queens. Moved out 2 weeks later. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week after I moved, I got a call. From Richard. "You owe rent," he said. "I don't live there anymore. You're still legally bound to the property. You owe $850, plus a $200 late fee." "I'm not paying that." "Then I'll take legal action." He hung up. I ignored him, blocked his number. Then the letters started. Rent notices. Mailed to my new address, even though I'd never given it to him. Past due, $850. Late fee, $200. I threw them away. More letters came. Every week. Final notice. Rent owed, $1,700. Legal action pending. I called a lawyer. Showed him the lease. He frowned. "This is unusual," he said. "But technically, if you signed it, it's binding. So I'm stuck. You could fight it in court. But that'll cost you more than just paying the rent." I couldn't afford a lawyer. I couldn't afford to fight. So I tried to ignore it. But things started getting weird. I come home to my new apartment and find things moved. My keys would be in a different spot. Food I didn't buy in my fridge. Once, I woke up in the middle of the night and all my lights were on. I lived alone. I turned them off before bed. Then one night, I woke up to someone standing in my room. Richard. Just standing there, at the foot of my bed, staring at me. "You need to come back," he said. I screamed, grabbed my phone, called 911. By the time I turned on the lights, he was gone. The cops came, searched the apartment, found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. Nothing. "Are you sure you saw someone?" one officer asked. "Yes," I said. "It was my old landlord." They took a report. But I could tell they didn't believe me. I moved again. Didn't tell anyone where. Not my friends. Not my family. No forwarding address. For 2 months, everything was quiet. Then I got another letter. From Richard. Mailed to my new address. "You can't leave. You'll always be a tenant. The lease is binding." I moved again. And again. It didn't matter. The letters kept coming. And sometimes, late at night, I'd wake up to find him standing in my room. Just watching. Not moving. Not speaking. Just watching. I'd blink and he'd be gone. I stopped sleeping. I'd stay awake all night. Lights on. Door locked. Chair wedged under the handle. But it didn't stop him. Last month, I got a new letter, different from the others. It was an eviction notice. Tenant has violated terms of lease by abandoning property. Immediate eviction proceedings have begun. Court date, November 18th, 2025. I don't understand. How can I be evicted from an apartment I don't live in? How can I owe rent for a place I left 3 years ago? I called the court. They said the case was real, that I needed to appear. I called another lawyer. He said the lease was enforceable, that I might actually owe back rent. Thousands of dollars. I don't have that kind of money. I don't know what to do. But here's the thing that terrifies me most. Last week I got a package. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a key. The key to apartment 3D. And a note. You're coming home, whether you want to or not. I threw the key away. Burned the note. But the next morning the key was back. On my kitchen counter. I don't know how it got there. My door was locked. My windows were closed. But the key was there. And last night I had a dream. I was back in that apartment. In Brooklyn. Apartment 3D. Richard was standing in the doorway. Smiling. "Welcome home," he said. "You never left." I woke up screaming. And when I looked at my phone, there was a calendar reminder. Set by someone else. Move-in day tomorrow. Apartment 3D. I didn't set that reminder. I never would. But it's there. And I can't delete it. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if I'll wake up in my bed or back in that apartment. But I know one thing. According to the lease, I never left. And I never will. The lease never ends. It just waits for you to come back. And one way or another, it always brings you home. I still check behind the drywall every time I move apartments. I know it sounds paranoid. I know people think I'm overreacting. But they weren't there. They didn't hear what I heard. They didn't find what I found. Let me back up. 3 years ago, I moved to Portland. Fresh out of a relationship that had left me broke and broken. My ex had kept the apartment, the furniture, even the cat. I was starting over with 2 suitcases and a laptop. I needed something cheap, something quiet, somewhere I could disappear for a while and figure out my life. I found the studio on Craigslist. $650 a month. Too good to be true for Portland. But the landlord said it had been vacant for a while and he just wanted someone reliable. The building was old, 1940s, maybe older, with creaky floors and radiator heat. My unit was on the 2nd floor, tucked at the end of a dim hallway that always smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. The apartment itself was small, really small, maybe 400 square feet. Kitchen along one wall, bathroom the size of a closet, and a main room that served as bedroom, living room, and office. But it had big windows, decent water pressure, and the landlord didn't ask too many questions. I signed the lease the same day. The first week was fine. Great even. I worked remotely as a copywriter, so I'd spend all day at my desk by the window watching the rain. Portland in November is gray and endless. But I didn't mind. I liked the quiet. I liked being alone. Then I started hearing it. It was the 8th night. I remember because I just finished a big project and treated myself to Thai food and a bottle of wine. I went to bed around midnight, a little buzzed, a little proud of myself. I was just drifting off when I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Deep inhales, long exhales. Like someone sleeping right next to me. I opened my eyes. The room was dark except for the streetlight glow coming through the curtains. I was alone, obviously. The door was locked. The windows were closed. I held my own breath and listened. There it was again. Inhale. Exhale. I told myself it was the radiator. Old buildings make weird noises. Pipes expanding. Air moving through vents. I turned over and pulled the blanket over my head. But I could still hear it. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Stress. My new apartment jitters. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and got back to work. Everything felt normal in the daylight. But that night, it happened again. Same time, around midnight. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard it, breathing, closer this time, like it was right next to my head. I sat up and turned on the lamp. Nothing. Just my empty apartment. My bed against the wall. My desk. My suitcase still half unpacked in the corner. I pressed my ear against the wall. That's when I realized something. The breathing was coming from inside the wall. My bedroom wall backed up to the hallway, so I figured maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe the walls were thin and I was hearing someone in the next unit. It didn't quite make sense. The building layout didn't match up, but I didn't have a better explanation. I tried to ignore it, but every night, same thing. Midnight, breathing, slow and steady, and always from the same spot on the wall, right behind my headboard. That should have been my first warning. By the end of the second week, I wasn't sleeping. I'd lie awake, staring at the wall, listening. Sometimes the breathing would stop for a few minutes, then start again. Once, I swear I heard a cough. A wet, rattling cough. Then silence. I started sleeping on the couch. It didn't help. I could still hear it. Fainter, but there. One night, I think it was a Thursday, I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and decided to investigate. If it was a neighbor, I'd ask them to keep it down. If it was pipes, I'd call the landlord. I checked the closet first. It was a small walk-in, just big enough for my clothes and some boxes. I pushed everything aside and tapped on the back wall. Hollow. But that didn't mean anything. Then I checked behind my bed. I dragged the frame away from the wall and crouched down with the flashlight. That's when I saw it. A gap. Small, maybe 2 inches wide, near the baseboard. The drywall looked loose, like it had been cut and pushed back into place. I leaned closer. The smell hit me immediately. Mildew, body odor, something rotten and sour, like old garbage left in the sun. I gagged and pulled back. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to look. Every instinct told me to leave it alone, to call someone, to get out. But I had to know. I grabbed a butter knife from the kitchen and pried at the gap. The drywall came away easily. Too easily. Behind it was darkness. I shined the flashlight inside. It was a crawl space, maybe 3 feet wide, running the length of the wall. I could see wooden beams, exposed pipes, insulation hanging in clumps, and something else. A sleeping bag, crumpled in the corner, dark blue, stained. Next to it, food wrappers, granola bar packages, an empty water bottle, a flashlight, the small kind you get at a gas station, and shoes, pair of men's sneakers, dirty, worn. I dropped the flashlight, clattered to the floor, the beam spinning wildly. Someone had been living inside my wall. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, frozen, staring at that gap in the drywall. My brain couldn't process it. Someone had been in there, sleeping, eating, breathing, right next to me. How long? How many nights had I been lying in bed, inches away, while someone watched me through the cracks? I grabbed my phone and called the landlord. He didn't answer. I called 911. The cops came 20 minutes later. 2 officers. They looked tired, annoyed, like they thought I was wasting their time, until I showed them the wall. One of them went pale. The other called for backup. They pulled away more of the drywall. The crawl space extended behind my entire bedroom, wrapping around toward the bathroom. There was more stuff back there. Clothes, a blanket, a book, and something that made my stomach turn. A small hole drilled into the drywall, just big enough to see through. Into my bedroom. They searched the whole building, checked every unit, every closet, every crawl space. Whoever had been living there was gone, but they'd been there recently. The sleeping bag was still warm. I moved out that day. I didn't pack. I didn't clean. I just left. I stayed with a friend for 2 weeks, then found a new place across town. Ground floor. No weird walls. No crawl spaces. The cops never found who it was. No prints. No DNA. Just a trail of someone who'd been living in the margins, slipping through the cracks of the building like a ghost. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. A week after I moved out, I got a call from the landlord. He said he'd checked the other units, found more crawl spaces, more sleeping bags, more holes drilled into walls. Whoever it was hadn't just been in my apartment. They'd been in all of them. I still live in Portland. different neighborhood now. But sometimes, late at night, when the building settles and the pipes creak, I hear it again. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Right next to me. And I check the walls. Every single time.